What's up, everyone? And you are watching What's Up, Ryan? And in this particular episode, we're going to be talking about how to set up for success. I think in times of building your business, moving out of your job, or at least if you're thinking about moving out of your job, there are a lot of things that you need to do, okay? Because if you don't plan or if you don't keep thinking in such a manner, right, you're not going to be able to create this success formula. So let me clarify a few things. I was someone who was never thinking about ever setting up a business. I was someone who never thought about becoming an entrepreneur. I never thought that I would ever make $1 million. Okay, I never thought about all these kind of things. I only thought about how can I live a life where I can live on my own terms, right? Where I don't have to wake up in the morning every day and drag myself to work. I ask myself, how can I spend more time with my wife? How can I spend more time with my children and not have to worry about money? I only thought about that. And I think that is the same kind of thoughts that everyone has. So in this episode, I'm gonna be talking about what was my journey and how I set up myself for success every single day. So right now, if you're in this state where you're thinking, how can I better myself? How can I start creating? How can I start creating a business for myself? How can I start becoming more successful, getting more clients for my business, my career? This is the episode where you're gonna start learning how to formulate all these things. Now, there are folks who do this to a T, and these folks, right? Now, being rich doesn't necessarily mean that you are someone who plans for success all the time. But if you notice the majority of self-made rich, okay, we're talking about self-made rich here, okay, where there was nothing handed down to them. They have a formula. And this is something through my journey where I've been observing these people, and I have had the privilege of being in their circle and of course being their friend as well. So when I look at how they carry out their day, okay, first thing, right, it's pretty standard. It's pretty standard where even though they have the time freedom, they usually have a fixed schedule. That means they have a certain time that they wake up. There's a certain type of whenever, if they're even dressing up, when they're dressing up, it looks always there's a particular there's a particular standard thing that they will always be wearing. They don't want to be too complex in terms of what they need to think about. Everything is very standard. Then when they go to work, right, or when they're running their business, they are always very systematic about how they do things. Like, they get to work at a certain time, even though they have the flexibility of time, okay? And they are disciplined. No matter what, they are still very, very disciplined. They're not like taking their time freedom for granted. So initially, right, when I stepped out of my job, right, it was a bit difficult, okay, because there wasn't an alarm clock anymore, okay, but I had to be disciplined enough to make sure that I was thinking on how am I going to get my first client. That was my first major concern, because I no longer represented the bank. I no longer had a database of clients that I could call. It was just me, right? All the costs of not having all the costs that I have in terms of my liabilities, I had to think, how am I going to pay all these liabilities now that I don't have my cushy banking job? So those were my initial thoughts, and that's when everything started to feel, and that's how I planned. I started to think and conceptualize, if I was to step out, right? If I was to step out of banking, okay, which I didn't, by the way, okay, I didn't think about a plan before I stepped out into the world of self-employment. I didn't think that way. And that was the part where, like I said, you have to at least think first about what you need to do. Planning is just one aspect. When you plan, you are just able to eliminate any forms of risk. Okay, a lot of people, right, they are very emotionally driven about their decision making because we are human. So we tend to make decisions sometimes very haphazardly at the heat of the moment. You know, you say something that you don't want to say, or you take action on basically you actually force a reaction that you don't want to, actually you didn't mean it, right? So when I did that, when I left, it was a mixture of built up frustration, and in terms of, not being able to spend time with the family and the wife, all those things, right? I didn't leave on bad terms. It's just that, it was just time to go. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to do. I didn't have a bunch of clients already. I could not do what I was doing while I was in banking. It was practically impossible. So the only way that I could actually kickstart my main gig, right, was to actually leave first. Okay, and that was being a personal trainer. So when I was a personal trainer, however, getting my first client was the main objective, right? Getting the license, and then getting the license first, and then after getting my first client was my challenge. So let me just jump into it. When I first started, I had to start from scratch. Okay, I had to basically start posting a little bit of ads and using Instagram as my so-called advertising platform. Okay, and after a while, people were starting to take notice on what I was doing, and they were looking for a personal trainer to help them out, either in their weight loss goals, to gain muscle, or basically to just be fitter in life, right? It's just very straightforward. So I must say I was really happy where you have friends or old friends kind of contacting you. Okay, since now that they know that that was on Facebook, by the way. So they started to contact me, and they said, hey Ryan, since you're doing this right now, perhaps you could train me maybe once or twice a week, and then from then we'll take it from there. So it was very encouraging, where I started to just create a little bit of exercise videos, post pictures on Instagram, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was how I started, but that was my very first so-called self-employment role. I wouldn't consider it a business because I didn't have to register my services at the time. It was just having a personal training license. Then when I moved into the internet marketing space, right, I still wouldn't consider it a full-fledged business, right? Because I was still self-employed. I was more of figuring out how the whole internet marketing space worked. And the reason why I even moved to internet marketing was the fact that I wanted to try building a proper business online, or try to understand what an online business actually entailed. And I wasn't entirely building my fitness my fitness business online. It wasn't always so very involved in social media. It was always via referrals. and I didn't have to put up much. In fact, I didn't have to put up much ads other than the initial stage, right? And the ad was not really very good, right? It wasn't even. I think I kind of got lucky, and it didn't really garner any customers, the ad. But I'm just telling you that was kind of what I did. So like I said, there wasn't actually much pre-planning. But then when I stepped into internet marketing, and there were programs that were teaching you how to think successfully, or at least why if you want to consider yourself successful, there are certain things that you needed to do. And so from those programs, I started getting curious and reading more books, and that's how I kind of started to get all the ideas that I have for the business that I have today. You see, and it was something that you have to do very regularly. You have to always be in the mode. You can't suddenly just come into you can't just come into it. It doesn't work that way. Okay, and that is why if you're thinking of starting your own business or your side gig, right, it starts from you. It starts from you making that first step on how you want to plan out this business, and how you want to think how you're gonna become that person that you eventually want to be. You have to envision yourself right now, right? However you want to be in the future. But you have to take the steps. Like, you ask yourself, you want to make $1 million. Like everyone just likes to say it. Like, I can't wait to make $1 million. But the question is, how much do you have right now? And what are the steps that you're taking to reach that $1 million? No one really thinks that way, because everyone just likes to say it, right? Same thing. You say you want to start a business, okay? But what are the steps that you are taking? Are you already conceptualizing your idea? Are you meeting the right people, right, that's going to help you out? Are you reading resources, right, to help you kickstart this business? All these things, right, are all planning. If you think about it, things that you're in control, okay? And that's another thing about successful people. They control a large part of their day. They're not allowing some level of randomness to really affect them. Because sure, you can't control how the market reacts to you. You can't control certain things like an accident happening, right? You can't control whether or not a customer will say yes or no. But you can control what time you wake up every day. You can control what kind of foods you decide to eat, right? You can decide on whether or not you want to look presentable or you want to look shabby. You see, all these are in your control. So you see, from waking up in the morning to looking good and creating a great first impression, that's on you. See, no one's gonna tell you otherwise. Okay, then when you start going out and meeting people, the way you carry yourself, right, is very important. And that after creating that very first impression, sure, your client may not, or your potential prospect or client does not always agree on what you have to say, because you have to kind of set up everything in such a way that there is going to be a higher level of success. So are you prepping your pitch before you enter a meeting, right? And based on the kind of products that you're selling or services that you're selling, are you familiar with your own product? You see, so everything comes down to a T. That is kind of like how most successful people think. It's not about being rich, it's about how you think. And right now, you can start all this with practically no money. You can practically start being in this mode with very little to no money, guys. I guarantee that you can do it. And this is the part where you have to really gear yourself up. That way, once you do become successful, right, you will know exactly what to do. You don't suddenly think that, oh, I'm going to get rich, and then the next thing, I'm going to live the life that I've always wanted. Bullshit. You're not going to be able to manage the money, that's for sure, because you don't have any idea what's out there on how to spend the money wisely or even how to invest the money wisely. Okay, you think that by having a Lambo or you paying off your student loan or house and that's it. You're dead wrong, because there are a million and one ways that most people actually go broke. Okay, the moment they achieve their so-called wealth too quickly. Okay, because you have to learn how to manage it over time and with experience. Okay, and that is something that I was already able to do because I was already a banker for some time. And I observed how people made money and lost money. And at the same time, I also observed what they did with their money. All these things, because I was very self-aware of that. That's why even though I was someone who lost money, but that was because I was not knowledgeable enough to invest in the stock market. But in terms of the way I spent money, I always had the habit of making sure that I did not overspend. Or whenever I did do that, when I put something on my credit card, I always made sure that I cleared it at the end of the month. I never allowed the debt to roll over, okay? Or whatever I owe to roll over. I never ever did that, okay? So this is also one thing. Successful people know how to manage their money. They will not put themselves in a financial situation that is uncomfortable. If they plan to buy something if they plan to buy a big ticket item, okay, they have the money, guys. They have the money. It's not even something of question. And if they needed to make an investment, they would weigh the risk involved. They don't just think of the reward. They will think, okay, apart from this instrument or this investment potentially could give me this, or it might give me this, right? What is the most that I can lose? At the same time, what kind of how long will my money be locked up, right? And will this actually cause any problems in terms of cash flow or whatever for my business or for myself? You have to start thinking like that. And I think when people start creating a portfolio, in crypto, and they don't really think too much about whether or not they can pay the bills on it or not, it's a bit concerning, because there were times when people over invested in the crypto markets, and I would see people having the issue of, oh no, if this doesn't turn out the way I expected it to be, I will be sunk, I will be stuck. So you see, that's not planning at all. You clearly didn't have enough finances, neither do you think of the potential time horizon that you'd be invested, right? And you just went in because of emotion, which I mentioned earlier, and you only thought about the potential return that you could not control. You see, even if you were someone who did read up about that particular investment prior to you putting your money in, you didn't really anticipate the time horizon required or the market movements. You see, no one can plan that. But if you prep for that, like you knew that, I know that crypto is volatile, I just allow it to happen. I know that it's going to be volatile. So if I put my money in, I know that I'm going to expect those drops, those pumps, or those times when it doesn't do anything. You see, you have to do that. So successful people will already plan that in a business that I start or in an investment that I do, I'm familiar with the kinds of possible reactions of how my business will perform, or this investment is going to perform in such a manner across a certain period of time. They would already have known that. And even if they didn't know, right, they would put in an amount just to learn. And that amount is so negligible that it will not even affect a single day of their life. It doesn't matter, right? So there are times when you can just experiment, right? Because sometimes putting in money just allows you to have skin in the game and you start learning. So another thing, you need to learn how to think on conceptualizing and planning your day. Okay, that's the thing, the main point. Conceptualizing and planning about your day. The next thing is the kind of mindset that you want to have. Okay, each and every single day you have to start planning. And of course, last but not least, I think we need to all take action. We need to take action and stop wondering whether this will work out, whether or not I'm gonna be successful. I think after going through my analysis, this is this, and then after you put it aside, successful people always take action and they will execute on their ideas. They don't sit and wait for something to happen. They will always execute their ideas, okay? And how it turns out, right, is through the process after you execute, and you fine-tune it along the way. And of course, you accept any failures, feedback that comes together with that process. Okay? So guys, that is all for today's stream. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you felt that it was of value, give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to the channel if you're looking for more information with regards to cryptocurrencies, investing, trading, business. This is the channel that you want to watch. Click on the notification bell as well, and hope to hear from you in the comments below how you're gonna start planning to have a successful, how to set yourself up for success. Alright guys, take care and see you all in the next stream.